All right, hey everyone, what's up? Doing another video today, but this time I'm doing it on the WWF Wrestling Spotlight magazines. Now, these were magazines that came out every so often, which were just about one individual or one tag team, or in some cases, one manager. So I thought we would take a look today at the WWF Wrestling Spotlight magazine collection. Now, I have every magazine but one. I am missing the Andre the Giant issue, which I have not seen on ebay.ca ever. And if it has been on there, it got bought up super fast. So I'm missing that one, but I do have the rest. So I thought I'd just go through and show them off in case anyone out there is interested in owning any of these, or maybe they weren't sure which ones existed and whatnot. So I thought I'd take a look at them today in this special video. So first up, it's the premiere issue. It's fall 1988. It is featuring the Macho Man Randy Savage, the undisputed WWF champion. So the Macho Man makes the first issue of this magazine collection. It's not Hulk Hogan, right? It's the Macho Man. They went with the champion. And rightfully so. He is the champion at this time. It would make sense. Up next, issue 2. Winter 1988, we have Hulk Hogan. So here we see the Hulkster has now made the cover of the WWF Wrestling Spotlight magazine. And actually, the weird thing is, Hogan and Macho do have multiple issues in this collection, but shockingly, they don't have the most. And we'll see who that is. They're coming up, actually, pretty soon. Issue number 3 is on Brutus the Barber Beefcake. So the Beefer, really popular around this time frame. You know, I believe this would have been 1988, this issue, or maybe early 89. This issue came out. So Beefcake was definitely one of the most popular wrestlers at the time in the World Wrestling Federation. So it makes sense for him to get the third issue as the cover. Issue number 4 goes to the Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior, of course, Intercontinental Champion, defeating the Honky Tonk Man at SummerSlam 88. A match that maybe Brutus the Barber Beefcake should have actually had and won, right? If it wasn't for Outlaw Ron Bass carving up Beefcake's forehead with those spears, or spurs, I should say, spurs on an edition of WWF Superstars of Wrestling. Let me try to get this down here a bit. There we go. Excellent. I don't want it up too high. I want to... My thing is all bent out of shape, so I was using it to hold on to when I did my apartment tour for the last video, so I'm trying to get it back to the way it was to get the right angle of these magazines. But yes, issue number 4 went to the Ultimate Warrior. Issue number 5 goes to Bret Hitman Hart. That's right, the Hitman gets his own issue. Pardon me. The Hitman gets his own issue. He was on his own at the time. The Hart Foundation weren't really a thing. Bret was wrestling the likes of Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig in singles matches in 1989. And I don't know, maybe Vince may have been trying to push Bret as a single star then. I don't really know what the deal was. But Bret got his own issue. And this will be the guy that we're going to see a hell of a lot more of as this magazine collection continues on. Bret Hart appears on 4 magazine covers. 3 as Bret Hitman Hart, and 1 with Jim the Anvil Neidhart in the Hart Foundation. He's the main guy, the only guy who had 4 cover magazine photos in this style of wrestling magazine collection. Issue number 6 goes to Axe and Smash Demolition, the reigning WWF Tag Team Champions. They make the cover for issue number 6. Number 7 goes to a wrestler who was really popular at this time frame, that being Jake the Snake Roberts with his pet snake Damien on the cover. He comes in number 7 for this collection. Number 8 goes to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, with the $1 Million Championship. Now, this would be the first time in this collection of spotlights where we see a bad guy getting the magazine cover. Everyone so far were good guys on the covers. This is the first heel, the first villain to make the cover, to have their own magazine on them, spotlighting them. And of course, it goes to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Issue number 9 goes to another tag team of Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, the Rockers. Rockers were wildly popular here, right? Like they were crazy over with the fans, and never really got a chance to shine as tag team champions. They won the belts on an episode of the main event, and it wasn't Saturday night's main event. It was the main event, I believe. It was a Friday night episode that was going to air, and I think it was originally going to air on a Saturday, and then it didn't. So they cut the match out because they didn't like the rope breaking anyhow, and then they just had the Hart Foundation keep the tag titles. They just ignored the fact that that match even existed. But Shawn Michaels would make a second magazine cover later on in this style of magazine, coming up way later. I'm talking like near the end. Shawn once again graces the cover. Issue number 10 goes to Truth, Law, Justice, Order, all that kind of stuff. The Big Boss Man. Big Boss Man comes in at number 10. He is now a good guy. He's a baby face, helping out Hulk Hogan, helping out Hacksaw Jim Duggan, helping out Jake the Snake Roberts, helping out Tugboat. You know, Big Boss Man is all for the fans and all for the good guys. He makes the cover and gets an entire magazine about him. Number 11 goes to Bret Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation. In 1990, the Hart Foundation once again become two-time WWF Tag Team Champions. They had this amazing, incredible match against the Demolition at SummerSlam 1990. It was a 2 out of 3 falls match for the tag titles. It was Smash and Crush against Bret and Jim, but Axe would get involved, and then so would Animal and Hawk, the Legion of Doom. And we saw new WWF Tag Team Champions crowned that night in Philadelphia, with the Hart Foundation winning it for the second time. And of course, they graced the covers of the WWF Wrestling Spotlight for volume number 11. Volume 12 goes to a rowdy Roddy Piper. Of course, the Hot Rod, also a big-time babyface, good guy. The Hot Rod, you know, super over, whether it be on the commentary booth at pay-per-views with Vince McMahon or Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, or whether it be on WWF Superstars with Vince and Randy Savage. Hot Rod always had a lot to say. He was very good at being a color commentator, dating way back to the old, Georgia Championship Wrestling with Gordon Soley and such, right? So the Hot Rod makes the cover here for number 12, showing off his career in the WWF. Number 13 goes to the Macho Man, Randy Savage. This, of course, is after WrestleMania 7. There is no more Macho King. He is long gone. The Macho Man is back. He's a baby face. He's a good guy. He's reinstated into the WWF. He's feuding with Jake the Snake Roberts. He's feuding with The Undertaker. He's feuding with Nature Boy Ric Flair. He's going to win the title a second time at WrestleMania 8. The Macho Man is back and bigger and brighter and better than ever. And he gets his second issue of WWF Wrestling Spotlight cover. Here we see volume 14 with Hawk and Animal, the Legion of Doom. They make the cover here because the LOD in the WWF were crazy over, just like they were back in the NWA era of Ted Turner's organization and Jim Crockett and all that. Animal and Hawk always over no matter where they're at, and they were here too. They were getting ready to win the WWF Tag Team titles from the Nasty Boys at SummerSlam 91 in that crazy before its time style match in the WWF. Man, that was a hardcore match before hardcore wrestling was a thing in the World Wrestling Federation. Go back and watch SummerSlam 91. That event was way before its time for everything. It was a very, very entertaining show. I think it's my favorite pay-per-view event of 1991 for the World Wrestling Federation. Definitely SummerSlam 1991. But the Legion of Doom, of course, made history that night in Madison Square Garden, winning the WWF Tag Team titles for the first time. So, of course, they're going to get a Spotlight magazine on them. Volume 15, we get our first manager, Miss Elizabeth, her life and her love. That's right, Liz makes the cover here, being the first manager to ever grace the WWF Wrestling Spotlight cover. So that's pretty cool. Miss Elizabeth, of course, is the first lady of wrestling for the WWF. by the Macho Man side all that time, and even by the side of Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake when they were feuding with the Macho Man in 1989, when Macho had Queen Sherry. So it's good to see that they pay some respect to Miss Elizabeth here by putting her on the cover for Volume 15. Volume 16 goes to The Undertaker. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Is The Undertaker a good guy or bad guy here? Because Undertaker became a good guy in the middle of 1992. Now, I would say this magazine probably came out around that time frame, if not a little later. So he's probably a babyface here. Or at least the fans were, warming up to him, that's for sure. So he makes the cover for Volume 16. Undertaker, of course, probably at this time was WWF champion, at least for those 7 days. It's crazy to think that Undertaker's first reign as WWF champion was at Survivor Series 1991, and he only held it for 1 week. Man, it's pretty crazy. But he made the cover there. Volume 17 goes to The Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior makes his triumphant return at WrestleMania 8 to help Hulk Hogan out in his battle with Psycho Sid and Papa Shango in the main event of WrestleMania. The Warrior returns with a new look, a new style, and maybe a new attitude. It's hard to say, but he went into the WWF here to win the title off the Macho Man at SummerSlam. It did not happen, but they became a tag team. The what were they called? The Ultimate Maniacs, I believe is what their name was. So you had the Mega Powers, which was Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. You had the Mega Maniacs, which was Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake. And then you had the Ultimate Maniacs, which was Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. So a lot of Maniacs and Megas and such going on during this time frame. But the Warrior returns 1992, and he gets his cover of the Spotlight for the second time. Bret Hitman Hart graces the cover for the third time, and this time he's got the WWF Championship with him. So this would have came out late 92, maybe early 1993. So Bret won the belt in October of 1992, so it's probably late 92 this came out, maybe, I'll say. But yes, Bret's third cover for the Spotlight, showing his career at this time. And the WWF title win over Ric Flair. So we see a changing of the guard, right? There's no more Hulk Hogan as champion, no more Randy Savage as champion. We're now going into a new generation, if you will. And we're going to put the belt on Bret Hitman Hart. Volume 19 goes to Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig. Mr. Perfect, of course, retiring from wrestling after SummerSlam 91 for a year and a half or so. Coming back at Survivor Series 92 to tag with the Macho Man Randy Savage to wrestle the bad guy Razor Ramon and Nature Boy Ric Flair at that Survivor Series event. And Mr. Perfect now a good guy, a baby face. So again, a baby face makes the cover of the WWF Wrestling Spotlight. So it looks like the only bad guy so far was the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. That was Volume 19. So Volume 20 is Andre the Giant. Like I said, I'm missing Andre. But I got Volume 21 here, which is Hulk Hogan for the second time. Hulk Hogan joins us on the cover of the Spotlight. He just returns to the WWF. He's going to be competing at WrestleMania 9, tagging with Brutus Beefcake against Money Inc. for the tag titles. And, of course, winning the championship later on that night from Yokozuna in that unexpected match. Volume 22 is The Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, with Hulk Hogan here on the cover. I'm guessing they did that hoping it would sell the magazine a little better, but Jimmy Hart is the second manager to make the cover of a WWF Wrestling Spotlight. Of course, Jimmy Hart as well, a good guy here, a babyface. It's not the bad guy Jimmy Hart, who used to manage the Nasty Boys or Money Incorporated or the Mountie, or Greg the Hammer Valentine. This is good guy Jimmy Hart, who manages the WWF champion Hulk Hogan. So Jimmy Hart gets his Spotlight cover and the magazine all about the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Volume 23 goes to Detroit, Michigan's own Rick and Scott, the Steiner brothers. Rick and Scott come into the WWF in late 1992 after leaving WCW. They have their big debut pay-per-view match at the Royal Rumble 1993, defeating the Beverly Brothers, would defeat the Head Shrinkers at WrestleMania 9, would tag with the Smoking Guns to defeat the Head Shrinkers and Money Incorporated at the King of the Ring in an 8-man tag, and then would win the tag titles on dark matches or house shows twice in the summer of 93, thus wrestling the Heavenly Bodies for the WWF tag titles at SummerSlam 93 in their home area of Detroit, Michigan. Now, Rick and Scott Steiner, 2-time tag champs, wildly crazily over in the WWF. They were in WCW too. Rick and Scott Steiner were always over when they were out there. Fans loved them. So they make the magazine cover number 23. And that's kind of cool. I think the Steiners, this may be the last tag team to make the cover of a Spotlight, were the Steiners. Lex Luger comes in at number 24. Lex Luger, his trials and his triumphs. Of course, Lex Luger wrestles Yokozuna at SummerSlam 93 for the WWF title, defeating Yokozuna by countout, therefore not winning the championship. However, because of that, he wasn't going to get another title shot until he won the Royal Rumble in 1994, which he did, but he did it alongside Bret Hitman Hart, and we all know how that story goes. If you want to hear about it, watch my video on the history of WrestleMania 10 that I did a few weeks ago. It's all there. But Lex Luger makes the cover here in volume 24 because, like most, Lex was over too. Fans love Lex. Lex was seen as the next guy, a top guy in the WWF in 1993, going into 1994. Unfortunately, fans, like as much as they like Lex, they like Bret Hart just a little bit more. Therefore, unfortunately for Lex, issue number 25, Bret Hitman Hart for the 4th time on the Spotlight cover with the WWF Championship once again. Bret won it at WrestleMania 10, defeating Yokozuna. And then, of course, had the year of 1994 as champion up until Survivor Series. So Bret makes the cover here for the 4th time. Bret Hart always over, right? Crazy popular. Fans loved him, not just from Canada, but from all over the world. Bret Hart always had a high fan rate back in the late 80s and into the early to mid 90s. He couldn't be touched. He was like the number one good guy. Fans loved him. And there was something about him. Bret Hart oozed coolness. Like, he was just a cool wrestler, cool guy. And I'm a little partial because I'm Canadian and Bret's Canadian, so of course I'm going to like Bret. I thought that was kind of cool. He was a Canadian and such, but no, but still, just in general, Bret Hart was over like Rover, and 4 times to be on the cover of the Wrestling Spotlight. The next issue, that would be number 26, issue 26. Goes to the WWF champion, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, the man, the myth, the machine. Big D getting the Spotlight magazine cover, winning the championship a few days after Survivor Series 94, Madison Square Garden, defeating Mr. Bob Backlund in like 8 seconds to win the championship. Would hold on to it for almost a year, losing it back to Bret Hitman Hart. But the year of 1995 ran on diesel fuel, and Big Daddy Cool gets the cover photo shot here for this issue. The next issue goes to the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, volume 27, the Intercontinental Champion, stunning, spectacular, sensational, simply Shawn, the life and times of the Heartbreak Kid. This, of course, taken from SummerSlam 95, this photo, because as you can see, Shawn's got the Intercontinental belt around his waist, and that was the garb and the gear he wore that night. So, yeah, that was definitely from SummerSlam. By the way, I always liked the SummerSlam 95 ladder match between Shawn and Razor a lot more than the WrestleMania 10 ladder match. That's just me, though. That's just me. So, last but not least, Psycho Sid, ruler of the world, and the other 8 planets for that matter. That's right, Psycho Sid making the last edition of the Spotlight magazine. He's on the cover with the world in his hands, getting ready to become WWF champion at Survivor Series 96 and Royal Rumble 1997. Now, these magazines kind of continued afterwards. You would see magazines of like with Stone Cold Steve Austin on the cover, or The Rock, or Shawn Michaels, or Owen Hart, and Brian Pillman, but they're just magazines about the wrestler. They weren't ever called Spotlight, so I don't know if you can like lump them into the WWF Wrestling Spotlight magazine collection, but they did exist. I don't have them all. I think I have Austin and I have Shawn, I think. But I'm probably going to get them down the road if I see them. And I know I have. I just haven't been in a hurry to buy them. But the Spotlights were great. These were great magazines for anyone who wanted to get a magazine of a tag team or a wrestler they like. Of course, it comes with two giant two-sided posters to put up on your wall. Some of these magazines are missing the posters, and a lot aren't, thankfully. So, but I'm not going to track down. If I end up seeing them on eBay that says poster included, then yeah, I'll probably buy it and then sell the non-poster one. But if I don't get it, I'm not going to be too worried. It is what it is. At least I have those. Now I just need to get Andre the Giant, and then I'll have the collection complete. I was hoping to do this issue with Andre the Giant one day, but I just don't see it ever happening. But you know what? Now that I've done this, knowing my luck, I'll look in a few days on ebay.ca and someone will have the Andre the Giant spotlight up for sale. And then I'll end up buying it and then doing a video saying, look what I have now. Because that's usually what happens when I do these things. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this one. We got a big wrestling event coming up this weekend. I believe Saturday night's main event. And then is Clash, is the Italy one this Sunday or is that next Sunday? I think it's the following Sunday. But yeah, lots of wrestling coming up, for the wrestling fans. So that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. It's just fun to watch if you're bored, right? You throw it on and watch it. Even if you're not a huge fan anymore, at least it's something to watch in the background to give you some enjoyment. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching this one. Let me know if you owned any of these. Or if you knew, or if you ever wanted any of these and just never got them. For me, it was the Heart Foundation one. I always tried to find that one. I never found it. So I was very happy to get it all these years later and finally go through it and see what was in it. All right, guys, until I do my next one, I'll talk to you later.